Hello, this is Abby. I'm an application engineer here at DesignPoint, and if you've already watched the tutorial on how to create the L bracket within SolidWorks, you're now ready for the challenge to create this baseball bat. So I'm going to go ahead and open up SolidWorks. Here's the completed model of it. And just as I did with the L bracket tutorial, I'm going to go back in our design tree and take a look at the steps I took to get there. So the first thing that I did was essentially created a blocky looking baseball bat. And after that, I created the fillets on the edges to round those out. I then had to create a new plane, which I'll show. I had to create a new plane to inscribe my text. And there you can see I've inscribed it. So let's go ahead and jump in and find out how I did this. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new part. And just as before, the first thing I have to do when starting a new part is select the plane to start sketching on. So I'm going to create one on the front plane, right click and say sketch. So within here, I'm going to want to sketch the profile of that blocky looking bat. So I'm going to start with the line tool, and just as I said in the other video, I want to make sure that something is attached to the origin. So I'm going to start at the origin and start creating that knob of the bat, to the grip, to the taper, down to the barrel of the bat. And I'll bring it back around and tie it back to the origin. So you'll notice I really only created half of the profile of the bat. And that's because the revolve feature that we're going to use is going to rotate around this line and create that circular edge on both sides. So of course the sketch is blue, so I'm going to assign dimensions to it. So you'll notice I can either click on the line itself to add a dimension, or I can click on endpoints to add a dimension. And again, I have to keep adding these until my sketch is no longer blue. And it'll also tell me down here it's still underdefined, so I still have to add some dimensions. I'm going to drag this out a little bit. Assign an overall length. Alright, so we've got a fully defined sketch. It lets me know right here. Also the sketch is black, so that tells me as well. So now that I have the sketch, I'm going to go into my features and select Revolve Boss / Base. Now the first option that I have to choose is the axis of revolution. As I said, I'm going to use this line here, and once it gives me that preview, you can see it creates that blocky looking bat. I'll say OK. And just to make it a little easier to look at, I'm going to change the display style to shaded, so it gets rid of those hard edges. Alright, so now I'm going to move on and go ahead and use the fillet tool to round out these edges on either side of the bat. So that can be accessed in the features ribbon. Fillet. So I'm going to select this edge on the end as well as this face, and it's going to apply that fillet to both edges on either side of the face. I'm going to leave it at 0.5 and hit the OK. So now it's starting to look more like a bat. So from here, what I have to do to inscribe my name on it is I'm going to have to first create a plane to lay my text. So to create a plane within the Features menu, I come up to Reference Geometry, Plane. So it's going to need at least 2 reference points to create this plane. The first reference I'm going to give it is the front plane. So to access that, I'm going to come up here and expand this part. And I can see the front plane here. And the second reference I want is the surface of the barrel of the bat. So now you can see in the preview, the blue plane is the one that I'm creating here. So I can hit OK, and that plane is created. So now I can treat it just like any other plane. I can go ahead and start a new sketch on that by right-clicking and selecting Sketch. So in order to get started with inscribing my text, what I have to do is first create a line for my text to lay on. essentially for it to sit on. So I'm going to come up to my line tool and hit the little drop down and select the center line option. I'm just going to put it anywhere on here and hit escape to get out of that tool. So now within my sketch window, I can go up to the text tool, and for the curves option, I'm going to select the dotted line that I just created, and I can go ahead and type in my text. It's very small, but it does appear. So within here, we can change the alignment of it, so I'm going to move it to the center. And then we can also make it a lot larger. To do this, we have to deselect the Use Document Font box and click on the Font button. So within here, you can change your font. I'm going to make it bold. And we can change either the height in units or the height in points. So I'll select the largest one and say OK. So now you can see my name's a lot larger there. And we can hit the check. So now I have the sketch, but now the question is, how do I get that to inscribe on the bat? So in order to inscribe my name, I'm first going to exit out of the sketch that I'm in, come up here to the top left and say Exit Sketch. I'm now going to go into my Features ribbon, up to the Wrap tool. So up here we want to make sure that we have the Deboss option selected, which will allow us to inscribe it. And it already selects this sketch for us, which is great. And for the face, we can select the face of the barrel. And it'll give you a preview there. You can change the distance of how far you want that to inscribe and hit the check. And you can see it inscribes that there for us. I'm going to go ahead and get this plane out of our way since we don't need it anymore. So I'm going to right click on it and select Hide. So our bat is complete, but it's very difficult to see my name there. So we're going to go ahead and apply some appearances and materials so that it looks a lot more impressive. So the first thing I'm going to do is apply a material to this part. This can be found within the design tree over here on the left. I'm going to right click on Material and say Edit Material. There's a whole list of materials that we can go through. I'm going to go down to the Woods folder and select Oak, say Apply, and Close. And you'll notice it applies it to the entire part for me. I'm going to go over into the Display Manager and slightly change this appearance. Right click and say Edit Appearance. I'm going to go over to the Mapping tab, and if I click through these, you can see on the model how it changes how that looks. I'm going to go with the sphere and say OK. So the last thing that I want to do is really make my name stand out here. So I'm going to apply a separate appearance to my name. To do that, I'm going to zoom in using the scroll bar on my mouse and right click within that Cut Extrude, hit the Appearances drop down, and you can see I can apply it to either the face, wrap, body, or the entire part. I'm going to choose to apply it to the wrap, so it'll apply to my entire name. So now within here, I'm just going to go ahead and make it a darker color so it looks like it's kind of burned in there, and say OK. So now you can see my name is a little more obvious, and I'm finished with my bat. I hope you enjoyed this, and feel free to mess around with the materials and appearances to make something really neat looking. Thank you for joining me. Bye.